Hello, everyone, and welcome back to LDM Radio Sports Talk, the show that talks about sports and other topics relatable to sports fans. Joining me this week again is Scott Blander in Pennsylvania.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hey, Scott, what's going on? So, before we get started, Cranford football, what do you got going on over there? You always wear something that has like some kind of meaning to it, so.
There's really nothing, no meaning today, other than this is a comfortable sweatshirt. It's Cranford High School. I used to substitute teach there. And the hat is due to me turning my heat way down because I was not happy with my latest electric bill. So that's it.
All right. Definitely, I don't know what it is over there, but over here we got some 40-degree breaks going on, so must be pretty cool.
Yeah, something like that around here. I mean, I'm right over the border of New Jersey, and I'm halfway up, central Jersey. I'm right off 78, so that'll give you some perspective. So I more or less get the same temperatures you get.
All right, so we're gonna get started with the how can we start with anything else but this exciting Super Bowl we have going on? We got some new blood. A lot of people like new blood, and that's exactly what we have going into this this Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the LA Rams. So we'll start with the I guess the Bengals would be the most surprising of the two teams. They ended up taking down the Kansas City Chiefs with a nice little 18-point comeback. What do you take of that? And how many people did you actually talk to beforehand that had the Bengals winning?
Not a lot. I know you did. I had as I told you, I had the Chiefs in a parlay amongst other things, and everything came to fruition except for that one. And that's not like the Chiefs to blow a lead like that. 21-3 in the first half. That game had 52-10 written all over it, and the Bengals proved they deserve to be here. I mean, they're like we talked about last week. Their record during the regular season not really a good indicator of how good this team is. They are really good. Joe Burrow again came into his own, joined the ranks of the elite about a month ago. Well, now it's about 2 months ago, maybe a month left, 4 or 5 games left in the regular season. Just took it to another level, and the Bengals certainly deserve to be here. Yep.
Yeah, it's just from my perspective, I did pick the Bengals to win just because we always have those kind of upset aspects going on, and this one seemed like the best bet of upset between the two championship games. But the way it happened, I wouldn't have expected that to happen the way it did after that first quarter. That's for sure. But the Bengals, they showed resolve. They were able to do it. I think, from the division that they came from, the AFC North, that was, I think, the most playoff prepared team going in, just coming from that division. Because, that whole division has teams with, stout run games and great defenses, and, just basically you got to just grind out every game. And that's what they did for – for a good enough record to get into the playoffs, not, to the same tone that the Chiefs did, but, it wasn't exactly the sexiest way to go through it, but they ended up getting it done when they needed to, and now they have 3 wins in January and going into the Super Bowl. So they've never won the Super Bowl before. They went in 1981 and 1988. And both of the times they lost to the San Francisco 49ers, which we'll get to in a little bit, but that almost happened again. And then we ended up having the Bengals come in, so they have a chance to get their first ever championship. And, really some new blood. I mean, who in the beginning of the season would have been able to pick the Cincinnati Bengals to go into the Super Bowl? Everybody would just laugh them off, and then – it's great for the fan base. It's great for the city, the state of Ohio that hasn't had a winner since I guess the LeBron James tour where his second tour ended up leading to a championship. But it's been a while for that franchise and football in general over there, unless you count the Ohio State, which we don't. And it's gonna be. I think it's great for me being a fan of a loser fan base like the New York Jets. Like it's just I can imagine their euphoric moment of feeling like this is it, and it's just fantastic. And a lot of them probably didn't even see it coming because you get kind of cynical after a little bit, where you're just like, yeah, it's never gonna happen. Oh man, why do I like this team and all this other craziness? But hey, we're here now, and Joe Burrow playing like a number one draft pick. He ended up overcoming his the leg injury that costed him a lot of last season, and he was able to get it done.
Yeah, and you mentioned the division, and if you look at that division, they won it at 10-7, and last place Ravens 8-9. So only from last place to first place, only 2 games separated them, and no other division is even remotely close. So not the most dominant teams. However, when you've got all 4 teams in the division that were battling for a playoff spot up until 2 weeks to go in the season, and actually, I think I think Browns, I think were still alive in the last game. But in any case, not the most dominant teams, but so competitive. And when you've got literally the entire division, all 4 teams in that division, all alive and fighting for the playoffs, that means whoever survives that is going to be battle tested and is going to be ready to go, ready to make some noise in the playoffs. And that's exactly what happened. 10-7, 9-7-1, 8-9, 8-9. Like that division, you could not possibly be any closer. And again, no other division even close to that. So the Bengals had to fight tooth and nail just to win that division. So they might not have the sexiest playoff record at 10-7, but fighting like that in down the stretch against those other teams who are equally alive, that's probably why they're going to be playing in the Super Bowl next week.
Absolutely. That led to their resolve in getting past that first quarter and taking it to the house. So, it wasn't easy. It ended up going into overtime, but this time the Bengals ended up making it happen because Patrick Mahomes it seemed a little human in this game. It was still, it was a very winnable game. I think maybe if they played these scenarios out 10 times, maybe the Chiefs would have won 7 times. But hey, I mean that's why they play the games, and the football. It's the rare sport where you just have one game to just make it happen. Against your opponent, like if you're feeling good, if you're not feeling good, if it's your best day, if it's not your best day, like nothing matters. Like you have to just get that one victory because there is no series, where you dropped the first game, we'll get them back the next 2 or next 4, next 6, nothing. It's just you have to get that one game. So that's what they did, and they also they had a matchup in Week 17 where the Bengals ended up winning, but it was very close, and it was not where you would. A lot of the Chiefs starters were out, like they were playing for the home field. So it just, it worked out that way. And I think just the resolve of the Bengals and the maturity of Joe Burrow, like who would have saw that coming? We've seen time and again so many young quarterbacks going through these situations and they're just not ready or they get too frazzled. And he ended up taking it home. Just amazing.
Yeah. Well, what else can you say? Very. And what's great about this matchup is that you've got 2 teams that really are likable. You got likable. You got feel good stories on both sides. You got likable teams. You don't have New England. You don't have Brady. You don't have Dallas. You don't have Philly. You don't really have teams going at it that anybody hates, really, unless you're a fan of the one of those teams' rivals or a team that one of those teams knocked out. Of course, that's the way it's always going to be. But on just a neutral observer standpoint, you don't really have any hate going on. You can just put your feet up and enjoy hopefully a great finale to absolutely spectacular playoffs. Every week, more or less every game was just amazing. So hopefully the Super Bowl does not disappoint. Yeah, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, this was a playoff. Aside from the let's say the Kansas City Steeler game, which obviously was just one-sided from the jump and just did not disappoint as far as any kind of climactic ending there. But yeah, every other game was very highly contested. Went down to the wire. One possession games. You name it. It was great. I thought it was fantastic the way everything has played out to this point. And you're right. There's no villains to root against. There's no oh man, I hope this guy doesn't win. Like it's just feel good story against feel good story. Like if if you follow wrestling, there was like two faces instead of like a heel and a face going against each other. To fight into the death. So hey, we're right now. It's a fantastic story. I think. Well, let's get into our other game that happened. That gets the second half of the Super Bowl pairing. So the San Francisco 49ers played the Los Angeles Rams. Now I think in a lot of circles maybe the San Francisco 49ers could have been like the closest thing to that villain role as the Chiefs would have been for some people that just hate greatness, which there's a lot of people in this day and age that do. So there was a very strong possibility there. They ended up dropping the game. They had a 10-point lead going into actually in the fourth quarter. They had a 10-point lead, 17-7. Ended up losing the game. Matthew Stafford, what more can you say about him? And the star-studded Los Angeles Rams that took a little while to gel after getting your Von Miller, getting your Odell Beckham Jr. Mid-season, which is very unheard of for a lot of NFL teams to really go for it in the mid-season. That's more of something that you see really in every other sport other than football. So we're there, and the Los Angeles Rams are going to the Super Bowl. What do you think about the game, and how bad did the San Francisco 49ers blow it?
Yeah, they definitely blew it. Last week we were talking about is Garoppolo the guy? And we both kind of the guy that you would want in that 1 minute, 2 minute drive to try, with the ball in his hands to try and win a playoff game. We both kind of unanimously agreed that we didn't want that he wouldn't be the guy, and he proved that he's not the guy. He had the chance to join the ranks of the elite or the ranks of the legendary, and he made a rookie mistake. He was under pressure. He was chased out, and I understand you want to throw the ball away and not take a sack, but what he did was just that's a rookie mistake. Just heaving it, right over his receiver. His receiver got a fingertips on it, and it was just an easy interception to end their season. You can't do that at that point in your career. In that particular case, if we're about to be brought down and could not get the ball out of bounds, then you have to eat the sack. They wouldn't have been the end of the world if you take the sack. They had enough time. Fourth down, I don't believe. So just a terrible, terrible mistake. And he's not the guy. He had a chance to prove it. He did not.
Yeah, I'd say my views on Garoppolo. He gets a lot of flack. I think. Almost, I want to say that he gets a lot of flack because he kind of looks like he has like a supermodel kind of look to him. Where obviously after his career, he's going to be able to pretty much do whatever he wants to do, as far as continuing on his career and being successful. But I'm going to say that he hasn't really been the same since that when he tore his ACL a couple of years ago. He was played behind Tom Brady in New England. Did pretty well in the flashes of time. Almost looked like he was gonna, be the heir apparent to Tom Brady until Tom Brady just decided where he wanted to keep playing forever. So that just the window of opportunity didn't materialize itself there. Ends up getting traded to San Francisco, and he was lighting it up at the beginning of his San Francisco 49er career. They were one of the top teams in the year that he ended up going down, but then he ends up tearing his ACL, missed the rest of the season. Pretty much sent the 49ers into a spiral where they ended up getting high draft picks and strengthening the team and such like that moving forward. But Garoppolo is just, it seems like he just hasn't been the same since then. You know, he hasn't, like now he was coming into this game just being a game manager. It was almost like, you know, they had to win to spite him and his play, and he just wasn't able to get it done there. But, you know, I don't totally knock him. I don't think that he's bad. I just think that, you know, these leg injuries, you know, you hear it time and again where other people, you know, you meet people, you meet like other athletes and stuff like that, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I blew my leg out, and that ended my career, and all these other things like that before they even get the chance to be in the professional roles, whether they would have made it or not, it's a moot point. But you know, it's a very real thing, and I think that that makes the Joe Burrow story, who actually tore his ACL, maybe you know, a little younger in life. Maybe he was able to bounce back a little better. You know, there's a lot of different variables there, but it makes his story a lot better because he was able to achieve his greatness and go back to the way he was, where Jimmy Garoppolo has not.
Yeah, and you know, like we've said several times at least throughout the course of the season that this is what he can do when he's not on Detroit. When anybody gets off the Detroit Lions, and it's so great that this is his first season. His first, it is his first season, right? Off of Detroit.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford.
In season number 1, he showed exactly what a guy with skills and talent can do when you get them off just the perennial whatever they are. You know, I don't want to offend any Lions fans who might be watching, but you know, the Lions are what they are. So you get a guy like that. You know, he was one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league for years, and now he's finally getting a chance to show what he can do. That's the other feel-good story. So you got feel-good stories on both sides of the ball this time, and I'm at a loss of who to root for here. Like I said, I don't hate either. I like both stories. I'm fine with either one winning as long as it's a good game. I'm kind of indifferent on Odell Beckham. You know, as a Giants fan, yeah, we had a problem with his attitude and his mouth, but you know, there certainly have been worse players on any given team. So I'm not necessarily rooting against him, nor am I necessarily rooting for him. If the Rams win, I guess I would be happy for him, and I would be happy, of course, for Matthew Stafford. You know, either way, I'm fine with either team, and they're both great stories to get to this point. And somebody's gonna finish off the dream, and you know, somebody's gonna. And the good news is both of these teams are just getting started. I think, in terms of, you know, the Super Bowl caliber teams that they have to get here. So it's not like, you know, this is, you know, if the Bucks were playing in it, you know, this might have been Brady's and it did turn out to be Brady's, you know, last hurrah. But you know, you got 2 up and coming teams, 2 young quarterbacks. So whoever does lose is, you know, just, you know, will instantly be either one. Both of these teams are going to be favorites next year as well. So that's the good news, is whoever does, you know, does not finish off this magical ride in style will, you know, should get the opportunity to do it again next year.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like the NFL is very, you know, you could be great one year and just totally bottom out and not make it anywhere close the next season. So it's a very, it's possible, but I don't think it's as consistent as the other sports. I think there's too many variables with injuries and different things that could just totally derail a team's overall success throughout the course of the season. But let's take a look at Matthew Stafford at this point. I think he's probably the most elite quarterback as far as underrated goes in the history of the NFL. I think a lot of people, you know, just because of his time in Detroit, and not being, having those, championships and playoff wins. I mean, it's very hard if you're going to be the only ones who are in the, very hard if you're going to be the only ones who are not in the playoffs at all to like get any kind of playoff wins and such like that. And we look at stories like in the past where Dan Marino, he never won the big game, won a lot of playoff games, and he was very successful. But I mean, let's face it, he was on much more dynamic teams overall than what the Detroit Lions were able to produce. I think Matthew Stafford, this is his coming out party. This is where like the nation is basically just finding out what a lot of other hardcore football fans have already known. And I think some people might disagree with that aspect, but I'm saying that he is the greatest underrated quarterback of our time right now, and he's finally arrived, and now he's on a great team, and he's making the most of his opportunities for the most part. I'm not going to say that he had the greatest game on Sunday or in these playoffs at all, but they've done enough to win, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you win by 50 or if you win by 2. You get the win, you're good to go. And right now we're looking at a situation where the Rams haven't won since 2000 when they had the greatest show on turf, where they were back in St. Louis. So I wonder actually if there are some St. Louis fans who are kind of like pissed off from the whole move to Los Angeles, and maybe they ended up transferring to Chiefs fans, and they're not. Maybe they'll hate the Rams. As far as finding a villain goes in this whole storyline, so that might be the closest thing we find to any kind of villainry in this one.
Yeah, you never know how fans are going to react. We being New York sports fans, we've never had to deal with that. Probably won't ever. What? What's that? What was that?
A little glitch. You good?
Oh, okay. We being New York sports fans, we've never had to deal with our teams leaving, coming and going. Baseball in the 50s and 60s, sure, but since the Mets arrived in '62. We've never had to deal. New York and the surrounding areas never had to deal with a team leaving, and probably never will. There's just too much money, in this area. So who knows, how those fans would deal with it. Right, Rams fans. You got the Chiefs 3 hours away. Do they now become Chiefs fans? I don't know. You have a similar situation in hockey with the Quebec Nordiques left. That's only a few hours away, from Montreal. But as far as I know, Quebec fans still very bitter and would not take up, the Canadiens as a backup. So, who knows what the city of St. Louis is feeling right now. I honestly couldn't answer that. I don't know how, if the Giants left, I could not see myself becoming a Jets fan. maybe Buffalo. Maybe I'd take on Buffalo. I don't know.
I'd say
it's a terrible situation though as a sports fan.
Yeah, New York has a lot of issues, but teams moving out, because of low revenue or whatever the case is definitely not one of them. So we're pretty safe on that. I guess like the closest thing would be the New Jersey Nets, whoever was in New Jersey and really loved them. But then, they moved to Brooklyn, not exactly the worst thing in the world. And the Islanders had a little cup of tea in Brooklyn and came back. Not exactly the most catastrophic big moves to begin with. But I mean, if you're if you're in St. Louis or that general area and you love the St. Louis Rams, and then they ended up moving to a different time zone. I mean, $600 flight away probably. You just that's a lot different than anything that we've had to deal with up here in the metropolitan area. But I'd say that's an interesting storyline. But I mean, anywhere else other than like your actual division rivals, like you got to imagine, anybody Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, everybody's just going against the Bengals and the rah St. Louis. Rah for the LA Rams. I'm sure that's what's going on there. And then again for the Rams, anybody in San Francisco or the Arizona and all those other divisions, they want them to leave. So that'll be what's going on there. But I think this is going to be like the perfect Super Bowl for Super Bowl parties, and you invite all these people, and you get invited to all these parties, and like there's so much going on, so much food celebrating, and then like there's so much like not watching of the actual game itself. Like this is the perfect Super Bowl for that because people aren't going to be watching it anyway. People just they meet up just to have like a party, have a good time, and this is going to be a great one for that because nobody's going to really care what's going on, and it's going to be a good time anyway. Without having that emotional investment of the results.
Well, I'll tell you, me personally, I've been more into the games in a non-giant Super Bowl. I've been more into the games than I have in the past. The commercials have pretty much bottomed out. For me growing up, Super Bowl commercials were always the highlight of the show because if you look at for our younger viewers, if you look at the Super Bowls, like the first one I remember was Super Bowl 19, where Joe Montana's 49ers beat Dan Marino's one and only Super Bowl appearance. And from then until I believe the Rams 99, it was about 15 straight blowouts. I mean, every Super Bowl was just a terrible game. Everything was a blowout. So the commercials were the highlight of the day, and yes, the whatever the food, the pregame parties, and then by the time you get to the game, nobody really cared. From '99 on, you've had some phenomenal Super Bowls, but the perfect example of what you said about how the game itself kind of takes a back seat. I won't go anywhere for a game. I won't go to a Super Bowl party anymore because, the game starts 6:30. It's going to end by 11. So, if I'm driving somewhere, I'm going to be home by, I'm out of there at halftime. I remember driving home, listening on the radio of the Patriots' ridiculous comeback against Atlanta. So I missed that one. And I was driving home for the Chiefs' ridiculous comeback against San Francisco. So, we have had some good games, and I'm more inclined to just order myself some fattening food, sit here by myself and watch the game because I'm not going to go anywhere because I missed some great games.
Yeah, I'd say one of the fun aspects of one idea that was kicked around that I saw off of social media was right now we're a week away from the President's Day and President's Week. A lot of usually when schools would be off for a week and things like that. They should just move the game. If they move the game one more week back, they'll be able to have like basically Sunday would be like its own holiday, and then everybody would be off the next day. I think it would be more enjoyable for everybody because the different situations, different everything. But if you're partying on a Sunday night and going into work on Monday morning, I mean, it's just, is there anything rougher than that? There's not much. So, I think it would be better for everybody if they kind of just made the Super Bowl its actual own holiday and have that extra day off that you're, just a dual one. You don't have to name it anything extra, but you're just basically, you're doing more for everybody else, giving everybody that extra business day off. To really have some fun there.
Yeah, you could do that, and every year the calls for that get a little louder. So give it some time, give it maybe another couple of years, and it probably would. But there's an easier fix. You could have the game on the Saturday. I mean, obviously Saturday NFL they're no stranger to that. They do playoffs on Saturdays now. They the last 3-4 weeks of the season, they do a game on Saturday. You have 2 weeks in between the game. It didn't always used to be that way. There was a time when it was just no break. There was no week off. It was the Super Bowl week after the conference championship games, but we're not in that anymore. It's 2 weeks. So, if it was 1 week, then, the extra day is huge for the teams to prepare. But since there's 2 weeks, it's really not. So my suggestion is rather than, try and get our dysfunctional government to try and make the Monday a federal holiday, a bank holiday, why not just move the game to Saturday and you still have, 13 days off before that game? I don't really think it's going to impact preparations much. I mean, Super Bowl Sunday. That's our phrase. I get that, but everything, everything's brand new and a weird concept until it's put into play, and then it becomes norm. So what's wrong with Super Bowl Saturday?
Yeah, basically, yeah, it just has to get into the wheelhouse of the cancel nation in order to be able to get that expedited a little faster. But I will say though, I mean, if we were able to push back daylight savings time until after Halloween because of kids' safety and Halloween and such like that, I mean, we can get this done at some point. It's just this has been the most popular week for decades. Anybody who calls out the Monday after a Super Bowl, you already know what's going on. It's not like it's like the worst kept secret of anything, any kind of plausible explanation on why you could not go to work on that following Monday. I mean, come on, let's make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, either one.
All right, so there's enough football talk. We're going to switch over to hockey now. So right now we are in our All-Star break, which should have been a full break, but the NHL decided not to. It's supposed to be a 2-week break fully, but then the NHL decided not to send their NHL players overseas into the Olympics. What is your take on that and how that ended up working out?
I actually liked them not sending the pros. I think if you're when they made the decision, teams were having players sit out for COVID. They were having games canceled for COVID. They shut the season down for COVID, and then on top of that, so you had basically the month off of February anyway, and so I thought it was just, ridiculous to have these guys go and, go to it's have to mention where it is. It's, I know we want to keep controversial topics to a minimum here, but, the fact that it was in China, or it is in China, that's relevant to the COVID conversation. No doubt. And, but I don't think it mattered really. I would feel the same way no matter where it was. You're, COVID was at the time was wreaking havoc in the league, and you want to send your players overseas to an international convention, amongst thousands of people from all over the planet during the pandemic. Terrible idea. Yeah. So I'm totally okay with it. Like the great Herb Brooks said, the name on the front is more important than the one on the back. Sure, in a normal, perfect world, I like pros in the Olympics. In every sport, I think a country should send their best talent, regardless of whether they get paid or not. In fact, I always thought that was kind of stupid, especially since before they let pros in '92, you had the Soviet Union and the communist countries were skirting the rules anyway. So the whole pro versus amateur thing was a sham anyway. So I'm not one of these purists that think it should be amateurs because I think it's ridiculous to send your best talent. But obviously, we are not in an ideal world at the time. At this time, so I'm happy actually that I was bailed on it. In the meantime, see a USA jersey to root for and hope for some good competitive Olympic hockey. And, it is what it is. And the last 2 years, I think the name of the game for everybody, every aspect of their lives is just making the best of things. And it's what we need to do with the Olympics, just make the best of what we got.
Yeah, I think the different perspectives from a fan standpoint, as far as the teams go, everybody's going to worry about their teams more than anybody else, especially if, let's say, hockey is the only sport that you love and Rangers are the only ones that you love, or, Flyers, Bruins, Islanders, the list goes on and on. If you only love that one specific team, that's all you care about. So you don't want one of your guys risking going overseas, getting hurt, and then not being available for your team that you love more than, most other things. So that's always when you hear these different debates going on. Now, to hear a lot of the players who I'd say, I'm sure it was more of them that you could hear because a lot of guys don't want to be, quoted. They don't want to, have that that image on them where they don't agree with something and things like that. But then you got a guy like Brad Marchand who really doesn't care about much. He's always down for whatever. So he ends up coming out and saying that it wasn't fair that they weren't able to go to the Olympics and different things like that, and a couple of players here and there. I think that for the players and for the countries and what it meant, like I think it hurt a lot, especially at the time that they ended up canceling the NHL players, which was about maybe 6 weeks ago, and there were there was a lot of uncertainty going on with with this COVID reaction and things like that. At this point, it's kind of like they jumped the gun, but hindsight is 2020. Can't really put a lot of heavy weight on that. I wouldn't anyway. But it's the perspective of you want to have the global event to have everybody like strut their stuff basically and prove that they're the best. And I think for a lot of the players, it meant a lot more to them than anyone else in the U.S. is concerned. Like a lot of times, like you were speaking about Russia and those other countries, like they do send their top guns because that's what they have, and that's the most important thing is to get that done. And I think that's the challenge that a lot of American Canadians and other Russians that aren't the ones that just decide to stay in Russia and play in the KHL. Those are the ones that get hurt the most because they're not able to, face that competition head on and, try to win or at least, put forth the effort, have the experience. So it sucks for the players, but, as far as fans go, like myself and everybody else, you over there and everybody else, it's better for us because obviously it puts them less at risk to get hurt, which is always the case, not just this year. And then, you have the COVID factor where you don't want to, like, get it over there, bring it to the whole team, and then you start postponing games and things like that. A lot of different variables there, but I'd say I agree with the NHL's decision. It just sucks that it ended up happening this way because it seems like now they could have just sent them without any kind of real big super risk because like I think a lot of I haven't seen any nationwide case numbers or anything like that. But what I do see is I see shorter lines when I walk around to with the mobile PCR tests and rapid tests. Like there's no lines, the crazy lines that they were a couple weeks ago. So it just I don't know. I don't see a long line in front of City MD anymore. Like was that was pretty much a staple of the past couple weeks. So it's just it's unfortunate the way it worked out for the players for sure.
Yeah. I mean, they were excited. Again, the whole thing is just a raw deal. It's just we're in uncharted waters. In terms of everything that's going on. And yes, they had made arrangements. They were excited, I'm sure. But it is what it is. And, you agree with the decision. I agree with the decision. I'm sure these guys will get over it. For some of these guys, it would have been their first Olympics. For some of them, it would have been their last Olympics. That always sucks. For the ones that were hoping to have one more shot at an international Olympic glory. But like I said, like we've been saying for 2 years now, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's but that's my perspective. Kind of goes more to the global aspect. Like as far as fans go, of course, it's a slam dunk. Like I don't want what is it, Chris Kreider playing for USA and then he ends up breaking his leg out there or something. Just those kind of different scenarios, and you don't want that as a fan. But so it's very easy to just say, oh yeah, you're not gonna skip it. That's great. No big deal. We'll grunt and bear it for 2 weeks and then we get our guys back. So, but I think for the players themselves, and it's more unfortunate for them than anything else because this is something that you're not going to be able to. It'll be different for the guys who haven't played their first Olympics as opposed to the ones who are definitely going to play their last one. So it's unfortunate for everybody involved. But we are where we are right now. So we'll talk about the NHL. Let's talk about the standings going on. So you got so let's talk about the Metropolitan Division because that's the most local division. So right now we got the New York Rangers in a tie for first place and against Washington. Is that still the case right now?
Yeah, but I believe we have the tiebreaker there. Just pulling up.
Do we really? Because I know that I know Washington's beat us the 2 times that we've played them. So I don't know.
Yeah, they have, but the first tiebreaker is the row wins, regulation overtime wins. Head to head is actually second behind that. Well,
Okay.
even tiebreaker, yeah. So points would be the first determining factor, followed by row wins, followed by head to head. So we got the Capitals by 5 points and even games. All right, so we don't need to worry about tiebreakers right now, but we do have them by 6 row wins. So yeah, we are good on the. Did you mean the Penguins?
No, we haven't actually played the Penguins yet. That was very weird quirk in the schedule where we played them probably like 5 times in the last like 10 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and the same with the Devils. We've only played them once, and we're gonna pile on games with them. And the same with the Islanders. I mean, I guess that's good scheduling, bad scheduling, however you want to call it. Get those big time division games and the rivalries down the stretch. For entertainment value for the fans and playoff type atmosphere. In the last 25 games of the season or so. So interesting scheduling. You could be in favor of it. You could be not in favor of it, whatever the case. But yeah, it's going to be very, very division heavy in the second half. And it's going to be it'll be make things very interesting. See if the Rangers are in fact, for real. I think we've consensus is they are a legit playoff team, and they still hovering around that top 5 in points. They cooled off a little bit within the past month, but every time you think the bottom's gonna drop out, because obviously we are, with what we've seen from the Rangers for the past 4 years, we are cautiously optimistic, and I stress the word cautiously. So every time you think that the bottom might drop out, they come back with some nice solid wins, and this past one against Florida was probably my favorite win of the season. And the reason that I love that game so much is because Florida, obviously one of, if not the best team in the league, easily the most dangerous third period team. In fact, they put 3 up on us twice. Previous times we played, they put 3 goals up on the third period twice. So this time the Rangers nursing that 1-goal lead, and this is how I would credit Gallant with this. This is the difference between good coaching and bad coaching. We haven't had good coaching in time. Rather than sit back on that 1-goal lead and sit back on their heels and hope that their top-notch goalie can weather the storm. And that's pretty much been the Rangers' mantra for years. Through various goalies, through the Lundqvist era, of course, and even back in the Mike Richter era. I remember Game 7 of the 94 conference finals against Devils, the Matteau game. The Rangers had a 1-0 lead going into the third, and they kind of sat back, and sure enough, the Devils tied it. And then Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, they had a 2-goal lead going into the third period. They kind of sat back, and Vancouver got one back, and then it was just sheer terror, for the last 10 minutes of that game as Vancouver really poured it on. And of course, Mike Richter and held his own, made some phenomenal saves, and the rest is history. But the other night against Florida, the Rangers did not sit back on their heels. They went for the throat. They went at it, and they outshot. I believe they were 13-9. They held Florida to single-digit shots in that third period, and the Rangers just did not sit back and say, "Okay, Igor, this is your time." They went out and they tried to make the lead bigger, and they did. And they got they got a power play late, took advantage, and Kreider got his second goal, and they increased the lead to 4-2 with 4 minutes left, in a sense, ending the game. And then they even added one more in the empty net. So that's what I love about that game. One of the best teams in the league, and they didn't just typical Rangers hockey is for the shots to be 21-4 in favor of Florida in that period, but the Rangers did not do that, and they went for the throat, and they got it. and they suffocated Florida, didn't let them do anything, and did not rely heavily on Igor. Igor did, make some good saves in that period, but that the Rangers owned that period, and it was just beautiful to see because and especially against a top tier, top notch team like that. That's just not something that we're used to. So that was a really, really great note. Not just winning that game, but how they won that game going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I mean, it's very easy to. I love what the New York Rangers are doing and what they've done to this point. I just don't think it's a playoff ready system right now. I mean, this looks like a team that is going to go into the first round and get absolutely smoked by whoever they play. Just because when you go through a situation where you're giving up so many shots on goal and rely so much on a goalie, there's saves. Like there's different kind of deflections. There's bad luck goals. There's like it deflects off of a skate where it could have went wide and different things like that. So a 2-1 win could turn into a 4-2 loss. Like just very quickly when you're giving that much chance and that much emphasis on just the goaltender stopping and everything that comes that way. I think the Rangers, unfortunately, they have the number 1 and number 2 pick in the draft the past couple of years, and they haven't gotten to that level of excellence yet and a level of eliteness, which is understandable because you're talking about 20, 21-year-olds. It's not exactly the end of the world, but it hasn't happened yet. So, and that's who they're relying on. You look at that Panthers lineup. They had Lafreniere on the first line with Kreider and Zibanejad, and right now the Rangers are functioning with Kreider, Zibanejad, whoever, and then Panarin, Strome, whoever, and then they just pop everybody in together in the power plays to get the jump there. But I think that there needs to be more strength on the lines, and then which also brings the people who are moonlighting in these top 2 lines as the sidekick going down and giving more depth to the bottom 6 lineup, assuming everybody stays healthy. So I think that's what the Rangers are going to look for in the deadline. I think they have a tremendous amount of defensive depth that they built over the years, the puck-moving depth. I think they learned from the Brady Shea deal where they got a number 1 pick for him, and he wasn't even doing all that great at the time. So, a puck-moving defenseman, or they get a good they fetch a good haul in these trades. So, they have a ton of them in the system, some that are ready, some that are not ready yet, some prospects. So, they have a lot of chips to go with, and they have to trade some of them because all of them aren't going to be New York Rangers in this point, especially when you have so much money committed to Trouba, and the emergence of Adam Fox makes him a mainstay. So that's already 2 slots, and then you look at the Lindgren pairing is really good there. So that's 3 of them. So you're talking about the rest of the 3 slots or 4 slots. So considering the 7th defenseman, to go, they have about maybe like 8 or so like depth defensemen that are just ready to chomp at the bait. So that some of them got to go. So that, just to strengthen the team, you have to. The best thing would be to use those chips in order to get the forward line stronger, and then really they can really take off and be elite at that point. That's my belief anyway.
Yeah, and another thing, you mentioned Fox. Another thing that was great about that win is that they've been without Fox for 3 games, and it was definitely noticeable. In fact, it was noticeable up until that Florida game, to be honest with you. They had the 2-0 leads in 2, maybe even 3. Columbus, it was 3 straight. It was Columbus, Seattle, and Minnesota. Yeah, 3 straight games. They blew a 2-0 lead. The good news is they were able to win one of them in Seattle. But, Adam Fox being out for 3 games, definitely noticeable, and they were able to win 2 of them, which was nice. But, and you were talking about the salaries and the salary cap and the emergence of Fox, and they locked him up for the long term, which is great. It probably helps that he grew up in New York and grew up a Ranger fan, so I'm sure they got some kind of hometown discount with what they locked him up for. Because if he hit the open market, he could have gotten 3.5 more per year easily. But
Yeah.
Grew up a Ranger fan, wants to be a Ranger, and now we've got him forever. So, so that's the good news, and we got him at a decent price for someone of his caliber. He's him, Victor Hedman. They're the top two defensemen in the league. Whoever's 1 and 2 is probably talking to a Ranger fan or a Tampa / Devils, Islanders, Flyers fan. They'll obviously say Hedman, but we've got one of, if not the best defenseman locked up, for a long time. So that's good. But we're going to see ourselves in salary cap purgatory very soon. So the good news is the team's starting to come together, and hopefully, again, we don't know if we have the team just yet. We know we have a playoff team. We don't know if we have a Stanley Cup winning team just yet. But it's coming. If it's not here, it's coming. It's only going to get better, I think, before the salary cap, turns into an issue.
Yeah, I'd say the trade deadline's at the end of the month, and basically, you have 6 chairs and 3 of them are taken up already, so it only leaves 3 more. And when you have 5 guys behind those other 3 that are in there right now, you gotta shred some of the depth. It's also, it's not fair to the actual players who are actually ready to get in there and then not be able. I mean, look at Brendan Schneider has been up for a little bit, and he's proven that he can hang with the big boys. So you just there's so many other defensemen that they have in their system right now, and on the bottom 6 of the New York Rangers, that it's going to make some interesting decisions, and but that's going to be where their biggest weaknesses are. They have the chips to trade away to get that in and really take off. So that I'll be looking for as far as the trade deadline goes, because I mean they put themselves in a position where if they're like 15, 20 points behind their total right now, which I think is 64. If they're behind that, then it's like, we could just wait and all that such like that. But now, I mean, they put themselves in a prime position where they have to go for it. There's no other way around it. That you only get these opportunities so often, and the Rangers, I look for them at the deadline to really be going for it.
I was talking about that with some other Ranger fans about like what to do. What we know is that they're not sellers. 4 years, we know for that they're not sellers. The question is, Jeff Gordon and now Chris Drury at the tail end here have done so much work to rebuild prospect draft pick system. And they're pretty now. They're defensive prospect heavy. So what do you do at the deadline? Because they're buyers. If anything, it's either nothing or buyers. We know that. And you don't want to start, doing the Glenn Sather thing that put him in that rebuild in the first place. And you don't want to start giving away the future that you built, worked so hard to get, that the depth and the prospects that they've. It was 4 long years of rebuilding that, and they did it. So you don't want to just go right down the same road. I know it is tempting, knowing that you might be one high-priced veteran rental away from over the top. So that's why I'm not a GM, because I don't know how to make those tough decisions. So they've got some pieces to move though. You're hearing the name Hedl thrown around. You're even hearing the name Kakko thrown around. I don't think he's a bust. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him, but I don't think he's going to turn into the top line star that we were hoping for, which means he's a very attractive trade piece. And I think that one that we could easily replace, because with how well the Rangers are playing and how great they look in the standings. He's come on a little bit lately, and Hedl has gotten a little bit better as well. But neither of them are, seem to be irreplaceable. So we do have some trade bait, and it's going to be very interesting. I think we're good on tough for the first time in a long time. I think we're good on toughness, I think, even with Emmy Blaze being out for the year. So that's not the issue. The question is, are we looking for maybe a 5th or 6th defenseman? Probably. Maybe another maybe another, decent scoring. Center, I think is huge. And it's not even the points that we need out of center. It's face-offs. So we could get, some kind of face-off guy or maybe a fifth or sixth defenseman. So that's the good news, is that the missing pieces don't seem to be something that would break the bank in terms of who we'd have to give up. I think we are looking at a bottom six guy and a third pair defenseman to shore this thing up. So if they are buyers, if they are buyers, I can't see them really breaking the bank on any kind of rental. I don't think they're looking for a piece that would cost them that much.
All right. I'm going to disagree. I think they need those support wingers on those big lines in order to really take off. But we'll see how that ends up working out toward the end of the month. But that does it for our show this week. Thank you very much, Scott, for stopping by again.
Thank you, sir. Always a pleasure.
All right. We'll be back next week. My name is Alfonso Caldero, LDM Radio Sports Talk.